సో, మనం ఇప్పటి వరకు బానే నేర్చుకున్నాం. ఇప్పటి వరకు ఎక్సలెంట్‌గా నేర్చుకున్నాం. వి నో లాట్ ఆఫ్ థింగ్స్. వి ఆల్రెడీ అండర్‌స్టూడ్ సో మెనీ Linux commands, and we had our careers in so many different streams, but we wanna become a, like, Linux administrator or AWS engineer, and we have learned a lot. Now, the main question is, and you did work on a lot of assignments, you completed assignments, you made so many commits to GitHub, you created so many branches, so many repositories, and you worked with the GitHub PRs, pull requests, all that kind of stuff. And you have provisioned so many instances, and you have provisioned so many services inside AWS. You did provision cloud formation, right? You did create cloud formation stacks. You wrote cloud formation stack to install lamp stack and EC2. So many things you have done with automation scripts. When I said automation scripts, you did use cloud formation, and you guys did use Terraform, and you guys did use Ansible, right? And you have provisioned so many AWS services like Lambda, CloudWatch alarm, cloud event rule, CloudWatch rule, and you have provisioned S3 bucket. You have provisioned other AWS services like a data lifecycle manager. You created EBS volumes, attached EBS volumes. You created baseline images. You used baseline images to create instances. You did configure Docker on Amazon Linux 2, EC2, which is nothing but. And you created like a ECR repositories. You pushed Docker images to ECR, and you build Docker images using Docker file. And you have done so many things, so many things, which is almost like almost you know uh, which is very almost like impossible for a new person who is adapting some new technologies like AWS, right? And you have done so many things. Now it's time to represent them. How you are going to represent yourself is the biggest question mark. Some people represent in a very better way. Some people speak very good English, right? Compared to me, a lot of people speak very good English. For example, some people, even though they did not work that much, but they explore, they explain whatever the small things that they have done. They can explain in a very better way. Some people, they do a lot of work. If you give a task to XYZ person, you will have that ready by tomorrow. But when you ask them tomorrow, hey, what you have done? And no, what I've done is I wrote this, I have this, and I created this, and that's it. Some people, the same way, some people take like a week to do that, and they explain, okay, you know what, we need a event rule to trigger this Lambda function. So what I have done, have created an event rule, and when you create an event rule, you will have an option that you can either choose cron job, or you can either choose an event based on API calls, and you can either choose scheduled job, things like that. You have an option to do that. Then what it does is it's going to trigger the Lambda function based on that API call, or based on that cron job, or based on that scheduled event, right? So once the Lambda has been invoked by the CloudWatch event, so what Lambda do, whatever the whatever the Python script, whatever you ask to do Lambda to do it, Lambda is going to do it. Okay, you can even configure post Lambda scripts like a SNS topic, create an SNS topic, send out a notification, and things like that. People talk about like this, right? Even though, if anybody, did they ask you to do explain all these things? No. What you have done, I've created Lambda function, done, right? In the first case scenario, what you are telling them, you have created Lambda function, done. Now you are giving them an option that, okay, how did you trigger the Lambda? Okay, what you had How did you create a CloudWatch event rule? Why would you do that? Why did you use the cron job? Why didn't you use API call? And can I do that with a ACS or SQS? Or can I do the same thing with a S3 bucket? Or can I do the same thing with EC2? Or you are giving them option, so they will question you more. In the second case scenario, you gave them perfect, like this is exactly what I have done, and that's more than enough. That's not a wrong way. That's absolutely perfect way to do it, and you did it. There is no question to be asked. Right now, they don't have an option like, okay, why did you use just a CloudWatch Event Bridge? Why don't you? Because your requirement to use CloudWatch Event Bridge. That's what you have done. Right? This is all about how you express yourself. The main, you have 30 minutes, most of calls, maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes, right? And this 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you should dominate everybody. How you're going to dominate? Nobody's working there. Like there is no competition like, hey, can you write an Ansible playbook to automate this? You have 40 minutes and I'm going to do it. You're going to do it and somebody's going to do it. Now 4 people in the call, now 4 of us driving now, and let's see who is going to do fast. It's not happening, right? Right? So it's all about verbal. It's all about your experience, how you have done it, and what is the best approach that you could do, and how you talk to team people, how you interact with the team, and what could be the best, like what is your strength, what is your weakness, right? And you have a scenario where your team people doesn't agree with you, but you feel that whatever you are doing is absolutely right. How can you handle that kind of situations? These kind of questions will be asked if they evaluate your technical capabilities, and if they think like, okay, you technically fit, done. Now they have a time, and now they want to evaluate, like they want to understand your personality, how you behave with others, what you do when you have an extra time, right? That kind of, so all these kind of small things matters initial days. Basically, each very small thing is matter. Small things, really big matters actually. Okay, so how we are going to handle that kind of situation? For example, let me explain. Let's say if somebody if anybody come to me, if anybody asks me, hey, so tell me about yourself, I'm going to tell them whatever I'm good at. Okay, so I'm going to give them heads up, hey, thank you so much for this opportunity. As you know, my name is XYZ, and I'm working as a AWS DevOps engineer for last 6 years. And before that, I worked as a build and release engineer and a systems administrators. So my day-to-day activities includes, I work with a Maven as a build tool, and I work with a lot of AWS services like EC2, Lambda, CloudFormation, most of the AWS services that I can say. And I work with a Jenkins for continuous integration and a continuous deployment. I did implement some Jenkins pipelines in my previous projects and a current project. And I do have a very good experience with the infrastructure as a code tools, like a Terraform and a CloudFormation. I did implement like a Terraform and a CloudFormation stacks to provision the AWS infrastructure. And also I do have a very good experience with the Ansible. I wrote so many Ansible playbooks to update the tags, to create EC2s, and to manage them, to create like a AMIs, and a lot of AWS services that I have used Ansible as well. And also I do have very good experience with the Docker and the Kubernetes. And yeah, this is what I've been doing in the current project. Okay. Now Now the second question is, so the second question will come from my explanation, from the first question answer. Okay. The second question will come from whatever the answer that gave them in my first question. And the question is, example, okay, you mentioned that you wrote some pipelines, right? Can you talk about a little bit more about that? Like, what is your experience with the pipelines? Okay, sure. So my response will be, okay, so I work with the GitHub, right? And I did integrate Jenkins with the GitHub actually using webhook. And whenever developers commit the code to the release branch, and what the Jenkins is going to trigger the job using webhook, and it is going to go through the build process. So I did implement like a stages in the Jenkins file, and what those stages are like, check out the code in the first stage, then build a Maven package, and we have some pipelines that build Docker images as well. Okay, but one project that I've been working on, it's going to build a Maven package, and we store those artifacts, those Maven package, nothing but the zip file, tar file, yar file, and those artifacts we store them into Nexus, or you can tell them you store them in S3. It is not wrong answer. You tell them you store them in ECR, Elastic Container Registry, which is not wrong answer. And I will tell them that those artifacts will be stored in Nexus. Then we deploy the same artifacts into lower environments. When I say lower environments, the environments like a sandbox, where people use for testing, and a pre-production environment, little bit depth testing, like more testing, each and every activity testing. If that goes well, we deploy the same artifacts which are being tested in a lower environments. We deploy the same artifacts to the production. We do not build in production, because when you test your artifacts in a lower environment, and if you build production as well, they are not the same. You're building artifacts again. That's not the same artifact that you tested earlier. Artifacts nothing but the zip file, tar file, yar file, whatever packaged version of your code, right? You test one package of code, and you are packaging for the production deployment, and which is not right and which is not good. So whatever the package that you tested in lower environments will be deployed to the production environment. Fair enough? Okay, yeah, that's absolutely fair enough. And if they want to evaluate a little bit more, and the question will be, how do you manage security, right? In this whole pipeline, how do you manage the security? Security in the sense like you have a plenty of ways to explain that. For example, let's say you are deploying some SSH keys. You are adding, whenever you provisioning a server, by default you will be adding some public keys to that server. That means you are deploying some SSH keys, or you are deploying some secrets, or you are deploying some sensitive data, or you need a usernames and a passwords. How you're going to manage all those secure details in your pipeline? So we store the credentials in a credentials field Jenkins, and we use a third-party tool called HashiCorp Vault. We store the secrets over there. Or you can tell them you store the secrets in Secrets Manager. Or you can tell them you encrypt the secrets, and we do provide the decryption password in the pipeline level. They're all right answers. There is no wrong answer, and you using different way. Okay. And we do use IAM. Jenkins is a service account role. Actually, it's a role. It's not, it's an user, it's a role. And you would have to have access to use Jenkins basically. So we have only 4 DevOps engineers who manage the Jenkins completely. And the developers, they do have a user role only, not administrator role. When I said user role only means whenever the Jenkins is trigger the job, whenever build happens, they can log into the Jenkins, they can verify that build status basically. So if they identify any issues, they will go and they will fix those issues when it's development level. But any configurations, any Jenkins configurations, when I said configurations, right? When you select the project left side, you will see configure project, right? They cannot change that configurations because they don't have a permissions to do that. And we control those permissions using IAM, Identity Access Management. We give developers, testers very limited access because they are not supposed to make any changes to infrastructure. They're not supposed to make any changes to configurations like a Jenkins configurations. So we do give them like a very limited permissions basically. Okay, fair enough. And yeah, can you talk about a little bit experience with they can pick either of the ones. They might pick like a CloudFormation, they might pick like a Terraform, they might pick like a Ansible, right? Let's say for example, they choose CloudFormation, right? Now what we tell them, so I did implement individual stack, one stack for for example, create a EC2, one stack to use Lambda, one stack to create a other AWS services like a CloudWatch Event Bridge or SNS topic. And what I have done, I did create like a individual CloudFormation stacks, and I did deploy them into AWS environments. Basically, we build the EC2 and using CloudFormation for one project, and we do support multiple customers. I do support multiple teams basically. So one customer, they wanted to use because they are 100% in AWS, and they wanted to use the CloudFormation as their like a primary infrastructure as a code. So I did implement CloudFormation stacks for them to provision entire EC2. Okay, and I ran the user data, and I have installed prerequisites when the time we provision the EC2 and all that kind of stuff. So I do have very good experience with the CloudFormation, and yeah, that was my experience with the CloudFormation. Fair enough. Talk about your EC2 like a Ansible experience. Okay, sure. So what I have done with Ansible, mostly configuration changes. I did create Ansible playbooks to update the tags of resources. I've created Ansible playbooks to update the tags for EC2 instances, EBS volumes, ENIs. I did implement Ansible script to update the tags for snapshots as well, AMIs as well. Okay, and also I did write even Ansible playbook to create and terminate EC2 as well, and for one customer. So yeah, I do have very good experience with Ansible actually. Okay, yeah, that's good. Give me 1 second. Anjali, I'm in a class right now. Can I call you back? Okay, bye. So that was my experience with Ansible actually. Okay, yeah, fair enough. So if anybody want to evaluate a little bit more, hey, what module should I use to copy files? I would say copy module. Okay, and if you are not sure about copy module, right? And how do you copy files in shell script actually? CP, right? CP, source and destination, right? And you can tell them use shell module and provide complete copy command. That's it. If you are not sure about any module, you can tell them. But if you know shell command, right, basic Linux command, if you know Linux command, and you can tell them that use shell module and provide that Linux command there, and which is absolutely right answer. That's not the best way to do it, but it's not wrong answer. So you have done that, so you know how to do it. It's all about, if asked, can you do it? You cannot do it. That's all about actually. And if anybody asks the same thing, can you talk about your Terraform experience? I would tell the same thing. We've created EC2 for one customer, monitor, state file, and terminate same stack using, terminate entire stack using same Terraform script and stuff like that. Okay. Any questions from anybody till now? No questions. So this will go like that basically. Okay. If anybody asks, okay, now let's go a little bit depth. Okay. Hey, what is the command to create a user in Linux? Okay. Yeah, let's user, add user or user add. You can use either of the one, will create user. Okay, I missed something actually. Can you talk about your GitHub experience? What you have done with the GitHub and the source code? They will ask, can you talk about your source code repositories experience, what you used, what tool you guys are using, and what is your experience with it, and stuff like that. So I'll tell them, I've been working with the GitHub for last 6-7 years actually, and I do have excellent experience with the GitHub. So we create branches. So we create the feature branch from master branch. So the entire most recent code will go to that feature, and we implement our feature branch and we test it. And if that goes well, we create a pull request from feature branch to QA and QA to master. That's how we migrate the code from feature branch to master branch. Okay. You are having 2-layer testing basically. Feature branch to QA, 1-layer testing, and a QA to master. If you miss something, if you miss some scenario in the QA level, still you have an option to test it QA to master level. So you are testing like that. Okay, that's how you migrate the code to the master. Fair enough. Can you tell me what is the difference between Git merge and Git rebase? People ask this kind of questions all time. So Git merge will add an extra commit. Let's say I made some changes to this branch, right? For example, I made changes to this branch, and after that, I made like a 15 changes to this branch, right? 10-15 changes to this branch. Now, if I do Git merge to master, these 15 changes will be added as a single commit basically. Okay, you have done 15 commits earlier to different branch. If you do merge this branch to your master branch or whatever different branch that you want to merge, those 15 commits will be added as a single commit. Okay, whereas Git rebase, that Git rebase will add those 15 changes as a one change at a time, like a loop it, one change at a time. So Git rebase will be little bit cleaner than Git merge. Git merge is just like a dump everything, sync everything. Okay, Git rebase is like add one commit at a time. So a little bit cleaner compared to Git merge. Okay, can you give me the Git commands, end-to-end Git commands? Let's say I want to clone a repository and I want to add some file and I want to add some content and I want to commit that file, and tell me how can you do that? Yeah, sure. So what I will do, git clone, I will use git clone to clone the repository. Then I'll go to that repository and I'll make some changes and I'll add those changes first. Then I'll commit those changes with a commit message. Then I'll push those changes. If anybody asks, hey, I want to do it in a single run, okay, as an automation script, how can you do that? Yeah, sure, sir. What I will do, I'll write simple Ansible playbook. I'll write like a 4 tasks, right? In the first task, I'll use shell module, right? Git clone, git add, git commit, git push, all those are like a shell commands, right? You run those commands only on Linux machines only. Shell commands, they are shell commands actually. So what I will do, I'll write simple Ansible playbook. I'll use shell module. In the first task, I'll clone the repository using git clone. In the second task, again shell module, I'll add some changes. CD to that repository, then touch, create an extra file, and then in the next task, what I will do, I'll add git add and git commit and git push. Done. Automatically, when you run that playbook, automatically it's gonna clone, it's gonna go to that folder, it's gonna add an extra file, and it's gonna commit first. Commit. That's it. Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. And yeah, this is how interview will go basically. Any questions from anybody till now? Then people ask, what, like how, what is the command to build a Docker image? Docker build, and you would have to run that command at the Docker file location basically, where you wanted to build the Docker image actually. Okay, Docker build and image name. And how can I run a container? You have a Docker image, how can you run a container? Docker run. Okay, how can I build a Maven package? Maven build, MVN build, Maven build. Okay, what command? Can you give me a command? Let's say, for example, I wanna create a user with an expiration date. Let's say I wanna create a user with a 1 month access, right? What is the command that you can use? Okay, that's a good question actually. So you can use -e flag to set expiration date. Add user -e and you set expiration date basically. But you are not sure about the flag basically. Okay, you are not sure about the flag, but let's see if you are not sure about the flag, and let's see what options we will have. Okay, and those options will be, for example, right? Okay, let's go to Amazon Linux actually. Let's go to Amazon Linux machine and let's try to create a mission and let's see what happens. Gotta be kidding me. So that instance is being running since yesterday. Can someone tell me what that is? TCNPYF, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go connect to this Linux machine. Okay, let's go to download folder. Can you guys see that I'm using tab? Each time when I'm working, I'm using tab because I don't have to think whether that file exists or not. Okay, the tab will tell me if it is there or not. Okay, now add user. Okay, because you have to be a super user in order to add user, right? So if you do add user, right, this add user will tell me all the flags. You see that options? Okay, you are not sure. Hey, even if I'm not sure in the interview, this is how you should tell them. Hey, so that flag right now is not in my mind, but what I can do, I can use man page of add user. This page called man page. Man page of add user, that will tell me all flags and what they does. You see that -e flag, this is the flag that we are talking about, expiry date. So expiration date of new account. When you creating new user account, you can set expiration date for the new user account basically. Okay, if anybody say, hey, how can you list the groups when you create a user? sir, -G. If you are not sure, hey, I don't have that flag in my mind right now, but what I will do, I will use add user man page to get that one, which is absolutely right. Okay, absolutely right. And all Linux administrator does the same thing. Okay, like nobody can remember anything, not anything, sorry, everything. Nobody can remember everything, right? And if they know how to get it, then what is the point of remember that, right? That was the question. Are you guys with me? Am I clear? Can you type Y in the chat if you are clear? Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, let's say another thing. Let's say, hey, actually, you know what? I ran some command earlier. Now I want to use that command again, but I'm not sure what command did I run. Okay, and let's say git, right? Okay, so I ran some command earlier. I ran a command to clone the repository. Okay, for example, we know what command we use to clone the repository, but I can't remember. I used some Kubernetes command, for example, and I ran that command. Now I forgot that command and I need to get the command, but I know that command, I ran it earlier. How can you get that command? Sir, what we can do, you can do history. That history will give you complete history of that box. Then you can pipe it to grep and a portion of that command. These many times I ran the git command. Okay, and you can grab whatever the command that you want to use, you can run the command. Fair enough, that's it. No more questions will be asked. Okay, any questions from anybody?